back, so don't delay. $5 admission on opening day. The Youth Fair is back on November 18th. Get ready for heart-pounding rides, mouth-watering food, and free parking every day. Get your discount tickets today and save at Sedano's or at fairexpo.com. And if you're 5 and under, admission is free. The Youth Fair, located on the fairgrounds at Coral Way and 112th Avenue, with enhanced health and safety measures. November 18th through December 5th. Visit fairexpo.com.
Hey people, this is DJ.
And this is Ish. And this is Season 4 of Better Let Me Tell You.
That's a song by The Weeknd.
Oh,
so
fin de
good.
semana.
So good. So good.
But did he move his tour?
I'm not sure. I should know this, right?
You should.
I don't know. I don't know what Abel's up to.
You don't? He hasn't been in touch?
No, Abel hasn't been in touch. Not like Mike.
Not like Mike. Does Mike still text you?
Mike and I haven't texted in a bit. With that said, everybody.
I got a random text the other day from J-Lo.
Oh. With that said, everybody, welcome to episode 181.
Yes. See, now that we're out of the 170s, you remember the numbers.
I do remember the number. How is everybody? Happy Friday.
Happy Better Friday.
Before we talk about November is here. So what Ish and I were talking about Mike. It's,
Mike, yes.
So I did have Mike text me. And when I mean Mike Posner. Right. I took a bill and a Ibiza.
Singer-songwriter.
To
You might have heard of him.
I was cool. And when I woke up 10 years older, I was sober, and I thought, whatever. Right. Anyway, so Mike Posner, that album that had
that song,
Bill and Ibiza, I freaking ate up that album. That was such a good record. Have you ever listened to it?
No.
With the exception of that song,
it's not a dance
it's
album.
super like introspective, a little dark.
Well, that song's kind of dark.
The song Bill and Ibiza,
it's not happy.
Well, but the version that's popular is the remix.
Right.
The real song is like acoustic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's acoustic. Okay. Most of the album is acoustic. And I freaking ate that up. And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was on his Twitter or on his Instagram that it had his phone number. And I'm like, all right. So I texted him. And he texted back, and we started having like an exchange in conversation. This wasn't only once. This was
right. This isn't like when you go to like you go to J-Lo's Instagram and it has her quote unquote phone number, and it's just so that she can send you texts about her latest projects.
Right. No, this was like
his number.
I would show you the text.
Yes,
these were like real texts.
It was like, hey, what's up? Not much. You like
somebody in his office,
but it was not a bot.
But it was definitely not a bot. Right. So I like to think that it was Mike.
I like to think so too.
So Mike and I were BFFs.
Total BFFs. Mike, if you're listening, we'd love to have you on the show.
And I even told him, I'm like, oh, your record, I changed my life and whatever. Because it did. Like, that album came out at a, rough time for me. And I don't know, how sometimes a record speaks to you and to what you're going through at that moment. And so Mike and I were BFFs. And I would show you the text. So I was like, don't be into that. I was like lying or exaggerating.
I would never think you were lying.
So yeah.
I would never call you a liar.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, as you said.
So that's my friend Mike.
Your friend Mike. And now we're in November, as you said.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can't believe
I know.
I told you, as we said last week, it's already St. Patrick's Day.
Well, okay, but before St. Patrick's Day, let's do a little house cleaning in the sense of Wednesday, November 10th, you can join us for trivia at Beat Culture.
Oh, yes.
Also, the fair is coming November 18th. They're a partner of ours. Mm-hmm. So we just gave away this week 4 entrances to the fair. We've got 2 more weeks of entrances that we're going to be giving away. So keep an eye out on our Instagram for those. Be there.
No.
From the beginning.
Come with your family. Come with your friends. It's a good times where
fun never ends.
The fair.
Be there.
It's all there. The fair, be there. The fair, be there. I was going to say the Dade County Youth Fair.
Yes, but they are just the fair now.
Not
they're not the Dade County Youth Fair, but
a youth fair.
A youth fair, claro, a youth fair. But yeah, so we're giving away some entry tickets. We just gave away 4. We've got 2 more giveaways coming up, so keep your eye on the Instagram. And I think that's it for right now in terms of housekeeping.
Yeah. We've talked about it before in seasons past.
Oh, Christmas is coming. Go to our website, buy shirts. Nothing says Happy Holidays like a Lechon Life
shirt. I know that like we've talked about it before in other years
Right.
when we would talk about the fair.
The fair.
But I have to tell you, the excitement I would feel when I would get the map in school of the fair, and you have to be of a certain age to know what we're talking about.
Yeah, the map now is not the same map.
No, I don't even think they give a map.
I've seen. Well, I don't know about at school, but I've seen it at the fair.
But in school, they would give
Yes.
you a map that you would fold out of the fair. The excitement, I would put the map, I would lay it out on the floor, and I would
circle
pretend.
things.
Yeah, I would pretend to be walking on the map and like going on the ride. Like I would spin around for the Himalaya and like like for the flying chairs, I would jump. Whatever.
How would you do the cakewalk?
Oh, well. The excitement was like, it was like going to Disney World.
Yeah, it really was.
And any good Miamian, you ask them when you think
of a certain age,
March. When you think March,
yeah.
what do you think of the fair?
The
Well,
fair.
this year obviously it's November,
November.
because of COVID. But
Pero,
this,
pero qué rico the fair, like because it's been not chilly, but Miami chilly.
so I say this is not a scientific data.
Okay, but we're
Right?
gonna go with it.
But I say that one of the best examples of global warming
Is the
and
fair?
climate change are my pictures of the fair. Because my pictures of the fair, all the way from when I was up to probably 10, so we're talking about the 80s,
right.
right? I'm like in jackets.
Por lo menos a windbreaker.
Yeah.
Like a light sweater,
Not,
but
nothing heavy, but
right,
like a
right,
jacket,
right.
like a members only jacket.
Because once the sun went down,
Right,
Había fresco.
It was March.
Yeah,
Había
había
fresco,
fresco, yeah.
El niño no puede estar así.
especially when you go up the mountain.
Right,
The hill,
and
the mountain.
now you go and you think you're gonna pass out. So
Ahorita we're gonna have to wear
so I
sangas.
think if you want an
Global
example,
warming.
if you want an example, and evidence of global warming, you could look, and I'm sure like me, many people, you could look at our pictures of the fair. How in the 80s and early 90s, you would go in a jacket, and now you go and it's like 100
Because
degrees.
you are the keeper of my entire life in terms of pictures. I wonder if you have pictures of like us as a group where we were like, con suetecitos and then
Well, I don't. I have many pictures.
This
of
is
us at
why
the
I'm
fair.
saying.
But we started going to the fair as a group in 1993. I didn't have my point and shoot camera.
Oh,
then.
that's true. This is true. So like the earliest would be like 96, 97.
But I think the earliest would probably be the late 90s, early 2000s, because that's when I started carrying my camera everywhere. So yeah, but I have pictures. Like there's a picture that I'm like looking at right now in my mind of my family, and we're on top of the little hill.
Yes, that was donde había más frío.
Yes, when you would go down.
Yes.
¿Te acuerdas when you would go up the hill that you were on top of it? Que bien.
Oh my God, it was so much
Because
ventolera.
you were a whole like 12 feet off the ground. Right? Because
But
like,
apparently, all of the wind from the rides
Yes.
was some
Yes.
type of centrifugal force.
yes,
I don't know.
Que ventolera. And actually, we have a picture where we're all like in sweaters and jackets, and my mom's hair is all over the place. That doesn't happen anymore.
No, it doesn't. But it will happen this year.
But this year it's a
It's in
different
November.
season.
Yeah. November,
and,
December.
and the fair is in the same place, so it's not like
Sí, no que tú digas when I went up north or went south.
it
Or
hits
right.
differently.
No.
So yes, that is our scientific
Yes.
evidence
Without
of,
any real scientific data.
of the fair. And then
It's anecdotal.
yes, and then of course my favorite thing always would see were the elephant ears, but the elephant ears, it has to be at the Little Red Barn.
Okay, I agree with you. But this year they have a new elephant ear funnel cake that I want to try. Lemon poppy seed.
Oh,
Right?
and then of course there was the little viejita who used to sell her jam at Arnold Hall.
Yeah.
Like I would love to talk to people that have worked at the fair, because a lot of people that have worked at the fair in like the office have worked there for like 100 years.
Well, the president, Eddie, I can't remember his last name now. He's been there forever, and like when you talk to him, he is knowledgeable.
like I would love to ask him about the little lady. So the person I'm talking about is, I mean, this was in the 80s, and we have her on video. In
Up until
Arnold
the 90s,
Hall,
no?
and even through the 90s, she was
Yeah.
there. In Arnold Hall, when you would enter Arnold Hall,
Which is where all the
exhibits
exhibitions
are, on your left, there would be a little old lady in a bonnet that used to sell her jams.
Yeah.
And she was there for years. Now, when we were children,
Yeah, era una señora.
una señora no, era una anciana. You know, she was like, she wasn't 70. You know what I mean? She wasn't 70. She was
right.
old.
Or maybe she wasn't as old as we thought she was because we were young.
Right. So, no. She was old.
Okay,
She
but
was-
you know it's that
she
thing
was
when
old
you're like,
her. No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
She was old, at least mid 80s old
Oh, wow,
when we
okay.
were kids. So
Okay.
you know now she would be like 130.
and she's still there.
She was probably born during the Civil War. Like
oh no.
you know,
She totally remembers prohibition and segregation.
yeah. So not pretty. So, but yeah, the fair.
Yes.
Be there. We're excited.
Yes, we'll be there at some point.
Bueno.
Yes. I can't wait to go on La Comelata of the fair with you.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's just what we do now.
Yeah, but you know what? The Comelata of the fair with me, like I always go and I'm like talk big, you know.
Well, that's why we don't go to buffets.
Yeah, I talk the talk, but I don't walk the walk.
No, you do not. I roll the roll, however,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
afterwards yo salgo rolando.
Yeah, no, I have like you know, I have like a slice of pizza and I'm like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah,
or
but,
like an
but
ice
you
cream.
but you always have room for the ice cream that's not cold.
Yes, the ice cream at the end of the hill. Isn't it true? It's true. I would tell you guys. So, listeners, there's an ice cream when you go down the hill in the Midway. The first thing there is like a soft serve
Yeah,
ice
a
cream
regular,
place,
yeah.
and it's been there for years. That's I went there because of my grandmother. Because my grandmother loved the fair. My grandmother hasta hace poco.
We'll go to the fair.
We would take her to the fair. My aunt would always take her like the day it opened. She'd go in, she'd have her ice cream and leave. My grandmother loved the fair. So I would always have that ice cream there from my grandmother.
Right.
And I would tell you, I'm like, this ice cream is not cold.
And I don't know how they do it because it's not melted.
Until the year that you guys had it. You're like, oh my God, you're so right. It's not cold.
It's ice cream. It's not melted, but it's not cold.
Is that
I
cold?
don't understand what kind of witchcraft goes into that
It's
ice
not
cream.
cold. And you have it. I'm like, I'm having lukewarm ice cream.
But it's not melted. But it's not melted.
And it's still good.
It's good, but it's not.
to have it
Cool.
every year.
You know what? I don't understand. I don't understand what kind of sorcery goes into making that ice cream.
Yeah. So, anyway. So, what else is going on?
So, did you hear that our favorite, chef comunista is sort of in the news?
Who?
Salt Bay.
I don't really care. But let's talk about it. A mí ese hombre me cae como una pata. But go.
Well, that's why I bring it up. Otherwise, what's the fun?
yeah.
So, you know that this gentleman charges, what is it, $1,500 for a steak? Whatever, right? Well, the other day he posted a job hiring. You know, we're all people. Hospitality is looking for people to work. To hire a chef. Take a guess at how much he was willing to pay.
At his restaurant? The restaurant here in
I don't know if
Brooklyn?
it was one here, but it was one of his restaurants somewhere.
Was it like a chef or like a sous chef or
It said, all I saw was that it said chef. But let's whatever, regardless. Like,
No. If it said chef, it's chef. Because when it's a sous chef, it's very explicit that they're looking for a sous chef.
okay. Well, it said chef, but when you take a guess.
Okay, well, naturally, for a restaurant that expensive, a head chef could make pretty penny. But if you're bringing this up to me, I'm going to go ahead and assume that he was probably nickel and diming.
If only
How much?
$16 an hour.
$16 an hour?
Yeah.
Que hijo de la gran postalita.
But he's gonna host, Maduro and
I don't-
everyone
I
who's,
don't- I don't understand the thing that people have with him. I think
because he doesn't do anything. He's just the owner. He doesn't eat cook. He's not a
I
chef.
think he knows about meat and he knows about steaks.
Sure,
He does.
but
He does.
but he's not a chef.
But the thing is
he's
that
not.
his food, because I've never gone to his restaurant, but I've been to his website and I've checked out his menu.
Okay.
His food is so outrageously expensive because I've been to expensive restaurants that have very expensive cuts of steak.
We went to Chef Adrian, which is not cheap.
Chef
I'm
Adrian.
saying it's not cheap,
even
right?
Chef Adrian, but like Capital Grill is not cheap.
Right.
And Capital Grill, un bistec te puede costar $60, $70, $80, $90.
But por eso digo,
or more.
and at least you're having it with like a chef. Like,
Trollocs. I mean, I've been to also other like independent, like smaller steakhouses that are very expensive, but they're like, a very expensive cut of meat and it's a whole experience and all that stuff. But then there's his prices. His prices, like the steaks are in the hundreds. And it's like, eso es gana de comer mierda. That's to be like, oh, I went to salt-based restaurant. Con la tira de sal. It's like, please give me a freaking break.
Okay, Darian, you and I are not making big moves. That's a problem.
Oh my God. Mira, he was one of these people that, like, when he first, like, became popular, I was like, yeah, I don't buy the gimmick. There's just some people que no me los trago. Yes. I'm like, I don't buy the gimmick. I don't know. I like to consider myself a foodie. I know everybody says they're a foodie.
Yes, everybody says that, but I think that there's a certain credence to when you say it.
Yes. I'm
sure there are people who are more foodie than you, but
not to put you down.
Oh,
but
I'll eat rocks.
But you like.
I just like food.
You just like food, but like I'm more that like I'll talk to you about like texture and flavor and pairings and temperature and stuff like that because again, I'm not an expert, I'm not a chef, but I do enjoy cooking and I know a little bit about it.
I just like to eat.
So I could appreciate it. I understand it a little bit. So that's why I'm not necessarily taken away by an expensive restaurant.
An asshole who comes and throws salt on something?
Right, that's expensive just because of the name, right?
Right.
Talk to me about like what type of beef is that? Is that like Wagyu? Is that Kobe beef from Kobe?
And again,
from Japan?
From Japan, right? And again, like when I don't know if he still has it, but when Emerald had his restaurant on the beach, I went there. This was years ago. I went there, with a group of friends for like a tasting. It was like 10 courses and it was expensive and blah blah. Pero bueno, por lo menos ahí. It was 10 courses, number one.
Emerald's a legit
Estás
chef.
pagando Emerald. But who is this man to justify these prices? Because he's not a chef. Because he's not a chef.
Right. And he's not. And then he became famous because of the salt thing.
Right.
And then it's ridiculous. And then he puts on this ridiculous show. Like he's having a seizure, when he's cutting your steak.
By that, the freaking Morton's girl should have her own restaurant and charge twice. Because it rains when she shows up.
It's like I so don't buy it, and he's paying $16. So what was the outrage like? What were people?
Well, no, that was just what I saw.
But you saw it is because people were like, "What?"
Well, people were like, "What the fuck? Like, really? You're gonna charge that much?"
And did he make another like?
I didn't read the whole article. I just kind of
ambiguous statement. like
I didn't even bother.
I
didn't even bother because at that point,
I fed. The thing about him feeding Maduro is that okay. Let's say that Maduro went to his restaurant.
You have no control over who shows up.
You don't have control over who shows up.
Fine.
And let's say that this guy's a head of state, whether he's a dictator or not. Let's say that they call you over. I understand
you're the owner of the restaurant.
You're the owner. I understand there's a certain protocol, and even
thank you for coming.
Politics
whatever.
aside, thank you for coming. Whatever.
Hope you enjoyed your meal.
Whatever. That's fine. I wouldn't have lost my shit over that or been like, what the fuck?
Right.
If that would have been the situation, because I understand that things like that happen. That's why sometimes when people are like, oh, so-and-so has a picture with so-and-so, it's like, you really can't go by that because as we know, a picture is like a fraction of a second.
Right.
And you don't know the context. You don't know the surroundings.
You could have been invited by someone else to an event and you have to look good for the person who invited you. Right. Or, There's a different context is very important when it comes down to which
that.
We've all lost sight of.
But the thing with Maduro was that he freaking went to freaking Venezuela and he cooked for Maduro and Maduro's family.
Right. It wasn't that Maduro went to his restaurant.
Right.
Right.
And, and freaking buttered up Maduro like, And it's like, please, por favor.
Yeah.
Por favor. Oh, you didn't know that, that he...
I didn't know. No. I'm so sorry. Oh.
Right? Because if you're going out of your way to go feed him and you're going to the presidential palace, wouldn't you at least want to know? You know what? Because for example,
I agree with you.
We're very involved in Venezuelan politics because of our connection to Venezuela. Right? Okay, so I understand that we have a perspective of Venezuela that we don't.
Right.
But that other people
may
don't
not.
have. Right. But if I were to be invited to go meet with a president of a Baltic country,
right.
Even if I've never heard of the country
I'll
or the
go to
resident,
Wikipedia.
I will at least look into okay,
who is this person?
Who is this person? Right?
Right. Bare minimum.
Yeah.
But you know what? We're also thinking of it from the perspective of you and I. Whereas there are people out there who just look at it as, oh, it's the president of a country. That's all I need to know. Oh, he slaughters people every morning before he has his eggs. Whatever. I just want the picture because like
No,
it's a head of
have
state.
you seen the video of Maduro? It's so like dictator cliche, porque está con la panza grandísima after having eaten,
Right.
20 pounds of steak.
steak.
And he's like talking of how good it was. And I'm like, wow, this is like the type of shit that you can't even make up.
No,
Like,
this is why people protest against you, sir.
yeah,
This is why. This is why.
it's ridiculous, but whatever. I hope he gets some shit from that,
hope he
because
gets-
that
ridiculous.
the profit margin that he has from his food has to be astronomical because of what he charges for it. So,
And it's always packed.
yeah.
And it's always packed, which means, well, I mean, que we live in Miami. I mean, I can't speak to the other restaurants, but or other cities, but Miami es la ciudad de los
You know what?
comediantes que se quieren
That's
lucir.
why, like, I'm glad you mentioned Chef Adrian. Chef Adrian, it's not only that, we like her because she's local and
All she's achieved.
you
And,
know,
right,
all
right.
that she's done. But Chef Adrian, especially the Vineyard restaurant, it's pricey. It's
But
pricey.
not unattainable pricey.
It's not unattainable pricey, but it is pricey.
It's special occasion pricey. It's like, when it's your birthday and after you've put your gifts on top of your
But
Ralph Lauren
you
comforter.
are going to get, first of all, she cooks not so much in the Vineyard restaurant outside of the box, but she has things that you wouldn't traditionally have at home. You know what
Right.
I mean? Everything is like great ingredients, like top-notch ingredients, and most importantly, sales de ahí, you will leave with a doggy bag.
Yeah, we
because
did.
of the portions.
Well, we did.
Of how big the portions are and all that. And you
You
know,
walk out satisfied.
That's an example of like somebody who like
You get what you pay for.
you get what you pay for. It's top quality. It's not cheap. Okay, that's fine. Pero this other guy, and then what I love is that when you go to his restaurant, he has like a display with
Mm-hmm.
like different steaks with celebrities' names on it. Like, oh, you mean to
I
tell
didn't
me
know
that
that.
steak is sitting there for Rihanna?
Serious.
Yeah.
So just when she shows up, it's
Yeah,
like,
oh,
"Here-
my
here's
steak."
your steak, Rihanna.
Ay, please, por favor. No comas tanta mierda. So,
So, I recently stumbled upon a study that I think might be interesting for us to chat about. Because you're a parent, and I'm a non-parent. But you, at one point, were a non-parent who worked in the workforce, not for yourself.
yes.
So, I saw this study that was done. In all fairness, it was done amongst ad agency people in the last year during the pandemic, asking parents and non-parents who they felt had a more difficult time with work-life balance.
A parent or a non-parent?
They asked parents and they asked non-parents. Of those two groups, do you think non-parents or parents have a harder time with work-life balance? And what they found was 81% of non-parents say that they respect the whole struggle of parents having to, find work-life balance and this and the other, versus 46% of parents saying the same for non-parents. So basically, parents are feeling that their life is just so much harder than non-parents because they have children, I guess.
Right.
Do you think that
Yes.
that's true?
Yes. 100%. Yes. And I can tell you from the point of view, you know very well, and that I was one of these people.
Which, by the way, 64% of non-parents said they feel empathy for parents, which is more than double the 30% of parents who have empathy for non-parents.
You know that even before I was a parent, I didn't drink that Kool-Aid.
Right.
I was the type of person I was like, oh, children. Oh, I don't want to hear about your kids. I don't want to hear about how your kid is doing in school. I don't care. Like, I was like that cynical son of a bitch.
And now you're this close to the bumper sticker.
You can punch me in the face if that ever happens.
I know it's coming.
No. You know why I'm never going to put a bumper sticker?
No. They make them magnetic now.
No. I'm going to tell you why. Because I love cars. I love cars, and I love my cars to have a certain aesthetic, and a bumper sticker just doesn't go with my look.
We'll have this conversation again the minute that Tristan shows up with one and asks you to put it on. I want to see you explain the aesthetic of the car being why I'm not going to show that I'm proud of your achievement. I want to be there for that conversation.
Please don't do that to me. So, anyway, but back to the topic at hand. So I was one of these people. I didn't drink that Kool-Aid. I was like, I freaking. You know, well, I remember I would be like, I don't want kids. I don't want kids. Kids annoy me. Kids annoy me. I don't want kids. Keep them as far as possible away from me.
Right.
I was that person, and then I ate it all up. Then what is it? No culpa para arriba. Right. So look, I don't like to, and well, you can answer this question. I've never, or at least I may have, but I generally, when I have an excuse as to why I can't do something, I've never told you like, oh, you don't understand, you don't have a kid. Or I've never been like, oh, you know, I have a kid, so I have so much more responsibility than you. I've never pulled that card.
You have. I mean, there have been days where you've literally just been like, look, I can't because Tristan has a birthday party.
Right.
But that's something very punctual.
Because I think that a lot of times people that do have kids love to like wave that over your head. Like, oh dear, whatever problems
we
you
know
think
people
you
like
have,
that.
whatever problems you think you have, it's nothing compared to me. And I think that that's bullshit because...
Well, you don't know what's going on in my life.
Right, you don't know. Well, I do. But
No. Well, okay. The general
but
you.
somebody
right.
who doesn't have kids...
Right, could be having a million other things going on.
other things, whether it's work, personal, you know, taking care of their parents, taking care of their partner. It could be a million different things.
Right.
And your reality is your reality, you know? And you could
also,
have...
your decision to have children doesn't diminish
Of
the
course,
challenges that
of
I
course.
have to face. Right.
You could have 10 kids, and you could have somebody who doesn't have kids, and that person just has a lot more stress and different things. So it all depends on
relative.
the person. But putting everything on an equal playing field, yeah, I mean, especially during the pandemic, because during the pandemic, the big kicker was, what do you do with this kid that now is no longer in school?
Sure. And not only they're no longer in school, they're still going to school. It's just they're going to school at home.
Virtual, right. And then, you know, I would always say, like, imagine the kids that are doing virtual school now and the parents don't speak English.
Right.
Right? Because the virtual school thing, it was so multi-layered, from downloading Zoom to the projects to it wasn't working.
Just connecting.
To connecting. And then at first nothing was working. Like,
yeah.
you know, there's a lot of different levels. Obviously, if you're a single parent, it's even more. But, I mean, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work, and something that it is very true when you have a kid, whether it's 1 or 10, it takes a village.
This is true.
It really takes a village to have some type of work-life balance. It really takes a village from everybody around you, because it's a lot of work. And then if you have a kid that has special needs, it's even more. It is. And again, it doesn't diminish somebody who doesn't, you know, but it is a lot.
My whole thing with this is I don't disagree with you, but and you touched on it. Like, for instance, I'm very considerate during the pandemic. You know, there were times where people would be like, oh, I have to take this call, but I have to take this call while I'm going to pick up my kid, or while I'm taking my kid to soccer practice, or whatever, you know, whatever the case may be. Right. And so that's fine. That's cool. You know, no big deal. But what I think is a challenge is when non-parents don't get that same consideration back.
Well, actually, what actually upsets me,
because I'm very understanding, and if you know what, hey, look, if you've got a toddler and you know you have to hold your baby while you're on the Zoom call and you're not on the video and you have to mute, and I get it, that's life.
Right.
But I should not be made to feel
right, and like for example,
I'm not able to say, hey, I'm going to take this while I'm driving because I have to go do something.
I remember when I was at ADP, when I worked there during my college years, obviously I didn't have kids. I remember that a lot of people who were young parents who did have kids, oh, my kid is sick, oh, my kid is that, you know, they would use their kid as an excuse, whereas I couldn't use that excuse.
Right.
Or like if something needed to be done, oh, Darian, you could go and do it because, you know, you don't have any responsibilities.
Right. And that's,
you know,
fuck you.
Right. And then what I don't like is when parents use the kid as an excuse for everything. Right. Oh, I'm late, the kid. Or, oh, you know.
Right.
So yeah, even now, like as a parent, I hate it when people that are parents think they have a hall pass for just, well, I have a kid.
You don't understand.
Oh, yeah,
you don't have children. Oh, whatever. And it's just like, no, I don't have kids. I get it. But like,
I mean, again, you could testify to that. I rarely, if ever, use the I have a kid card.
And no, but when you guys use it, you don't use it as a you don't understand.
Right.
You use it more as a like, yo, I just can't.
Right.
Like, I
And
can't
and
because
you know, many of my complications aren't even with my kid.
if only they were the kid.
It's everybody else.
Everyone else, if only it was Tristan.
If it was only Tristan, I'd probably be
You'd
good.
have so much less.
I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go run in a meadow.
Your life would be a dryer sheet commercial.
Yes. But I think especially during the pandemic,
Yeah.
it was a big stress to have because, like, you know, for example, with Tristan, I was able to pull it off because I'm self-employed.
Right. So you can decide when you're going to take a call.
Right.
Or if you're going to have a meeting or not.
So that was a huge
Right.
help for us.
Right.
So, you know, like, what do you do? Like,
Right. Yeah, I mean, my whole thing is, it's just, again, it goes back to the thing of, you know, non-parents had the utmost of sympathy and empathy, not sympathy, empathy. And, you know, parents had less for non-parents. And, you know, look, the pandemic was hard on everybody, you know, especially at the beginning, because we didn't know what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was stuck at home. And, you know, non-parents, yes, some of us are in relationships and some of us, you know, are non-parents but in couples or blah, 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 whatever. But, you know, there are some non-parents who live by themselves. And those early days of the pandemic where you could not go see anybody.
no.
At least you had your family, your kids and whatever. It's not the same to be stuck at home all day by yourself with maybe, a fish?
Yeah, no, and it was hard because, like, for example, she never stopped working.
Right.
So she still had to go to the office. So it's not like she could attend to him,
Right.
you know, when he was at home, you know, in
And
the
here,
house,
yeah.
you know, when he was with me at my house, you know, but at the same time, you know, I was self-employed, so I had
You
to
had
be
that
on
perk.
top of the school stuff. And I was working in a sense
Well,
that
but actually that's a whole other layer too, because as you're self-employed, I'm not self-employed. There's a whole company mechanism that will dictate what I do and how I do it. You, as someone who is self-employed, have to set those rules too.
Right. And okay, who's going to come into the office
Right.
and what
If
turns
you don't
are
pay
we gonna
attention
take?
to it, things are gonna
You know,
happen.
the day that I'm not going to come into the office.
Who is?
Because I couldn't take him to my parents' house because we were quarantining.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, right, especially the beginning where we had no clue.
Right. So, it was a tough time, and I just think that people that had kids, by the very nature that it was another body they have to be responsible
That's
for,
true.
probably had it worse off. I mean, obviously, the pandemic affected everybody in different ways, but it affected everybody. But you know, it's like anything. You don't. I'm not big on the victimization type thing, and I think a lot of parents love to play the victim. Like, oh my god, you don't understand. I'm so stressed out. It's like, lady,
I get it.
I can assure you, you're not more stressed out than me. But I don't need to go being like, oh my god,
We don't have to turn this into a pissing
woe
contest.
is me, you know.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know. That's interesting. I wonder what millennials think,
Millennials think things.
or what is it? I always forget. What are
Gen Z?
Gen Z? I wonder what they think. They probably think that, you know, having kids is inhumane.
It's probably not eco-friendly.
Well, probably isn't.
It probably isn't. Oh, Dios mío. All right, so can we talk about a pet peeve of mine that I recently have escalated to the top of my pet peeve list?
What is it?
All right. I know it's nothing new. This is nothing new, but I feel like I am seeing it more and more and more. And I'm not only seeing it more, I'm seeing it in places where it makes no fucking sense.
QR codes.
No, because after the pandemic, those made sense. That's how we...
Who knew that QR codes
gonna
were
make a
going to make
comeback.
that type of comeback?
They were fetch.
Yeah, but
They made it happen, damn it.
right, but it took a
pandemic.
a global pandemic, because QR codes were like gone.
They were gone.
Who used the QR code?
We would tell our clients, don't bother.
Like,
When I was on the agency side, they'd be like, oh, the QR codes were like, nobody's using
because I
them.
remember when like the QR codes first came out, everybody would like download the app to like read the QR codes.
Yeah. Well,
and then
and then it just fell out of
that
favor.
didn't last very long.
No. También ahora you can just use your regular camera. So that helps as well. But no. My new top of the list pet peeve is dumb fucks who insist on having their conversations
On speakerphone?
on FaceTime.
Oh yeah. No. But we've talked about that here.
On FaceTime? I know we talked about speaker, I think.
On FaceTime and speaker. It's the same thing. Well, it's not the same thing, but it's the same.
The other day,
but it's just everywhere.
I was getting my car washed, and after I went through one of the little machine things, whatever, and afterwards we were vacuuming the car and whatever.
Wait, hold on. You wash the car before you vacuum it?
Yeah.
I vacuum it before I wash it.
Really?
Yeah, because I want to get it all clean inside, like clean. So then, the finishing touch is the outside. No, because
I
like
do it the
when I
opposite.
clean the car on the outside, I think this is so funny. This is what
such a left turn.
When I clean the car on the outside first, when I go then to clean out the car, like I take out the floor mats and many times I put them on the hood,
Oh, okay, I don't put them on the hood, no.
or whatever, and then so it's a clean car.
No, for me, I think it's more because that way the car, while I'm cleaning, the car's drying.
But the car is drying when you go out of the car wash.
Well, yeah, in the car
Listeners.
okay, in the car wash scenario, yes, but I'm talking usually.
We should do
we should make a poll.
Okay, this could be the little sound thing
Yes.
you put on Instagram. So our listeners out there, do you wash the car and then vacuum, or do you vacuum and then wash the car? And we do both of them.
You know what it is for me also is that like I don't know. I just don't like to vacuum it before I wash. I just like to because that means that like before I wash it, when I'm doing it at like my parents' house, then I have to take the vacuum inside and then still come out and do. So it's just a whole thing. But no. So I was at the car wash, and while we were vacuuming,
Whoa.
yes, us and Rolls Royce, there's this guy literally vacuuming his car, talking to someone on FaceTime. Why?
But
Why?
don't you remember when I would?
Who needs to see you? First of all, there's a lot of noise going on at the car wash, so you probably couldn't really hear you to begin with.
Don't you remember that brief time I used to go to?
And then I saw some chick doing it
I
at
used
the gym.
to go to a gym by my parents' house. That the guy, I was there waiting for I think it was the lateral machine, like the pull down lateral.
The lats,
machine.
yeah.
Yeah, and the guy was like FaceTiming with Cuba, and the guy in Cuba was like, "Oh, eres un tigre," and I'm like, "Oh my god."
Right. Why? But yeah, why? Why?
It's everywhere.
But why? I want somebody to answer.
Do you know I especially
question.
have a problem with it in the produce section of the supermarket?
Okay, that's very niche.
Yes, it is. I'm going to tell you why. Think about
no,
the
you're gonna
supermarket.
have to.
Think about the supermarket. Think about Publix. Isn't the produce section quieter?
Well, yeah, because it's in the corner.
It's in the corner.
In the back. Right.
It's in the back.
Right.
People are picking the produce.
Which is always very weird about Publix, because everybody else puts the produce front and center at the entrance, and Publix is like, no. Vianda's in the back.
Yeah. Think about it. It's very quiet. So there you are, picking your peaches and your mangos and your banana. Oye, ya tú renovaste la licencia. Oye, si el papel llegó hace como 2 meses, ¿cómo tú no has renovado la licencia?
Which, by the way, you're going to be able to renew your tags at Publix now.
Well, there we go.
There we go. So, yeah, by the way, it's a thing, yeah.
Oye, ya tú recogiste a Minta. No, porque ella llamó y dijo que la guaguita llegó tarde. Y está en León todavía. Imagínate, desde las 2 de la tarde está en el médico.
Okay.
While I'm there, trying to
find a nice pepper.
Yes. Going through the strawberries, 3 for $10, and then I can't find 3
that are
cases
good.
that are good.
Yeah,
Isn't that like the struggle is real?
It is. It's first world problems, but it's there. Yeah. But at least that, okay, I'm not saying that's acceptable, but at least in that instance, this person is not really quote unquote doing anything, right? At the gym, in theory, you are doing something, right? You're in the middle of a workout.
Right, but if you go to the gym,
Even
and
if you're
it's
resting.
not documented, did you really go to the gym?
Okay, I feel a little attacked by that statement. But in all fairness, I've never FaceTimed you from the gym.
No, you haven't.
But you're in the middle of actually doing something. Like, just call them back. Call them back.
But
or text.
But in
or
general,
even if you want to just have a
general, this is
because I've
some-
spoken to you from the treadmill before, but
This is something that has happened a lot, not only with FaceTime, but with just speakerphone in general.
I don't need to hear
In
everything.
in an elevator, do you know how many times I get into an elevator in my like office or whatever, or I would, and there's people I see full blown conversation, and it's like, okay, I could hear the other person, and obviously I could hear you respond. Like, why do you think it's okay that strangers should listen to your conversation?
You know, one day we should respond to the conversation. Like, no. If you're speaking, and listeners, feel free to do this too, and let us
But
know.
can I tell you something?
Like, if they're speaking on speakerphone and there's a full blown conversation, you at that point should be allowed to be like, "Are you kidding? No me diga. Pero qué pasó?"
Can I tell you something though? And we could say it because we're Cuban. That's a totally our people thing.
Yes and no. I've seen.
Yo no he visto un
I've-
americano hacer eso.
Well, I was gonna go with Latinos.
Oh no, yeah, tell that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yo no he visto, I haven't seen a white person do that. And be like,
But I will say, you know what? You know what?
Karen.
Yeah, Karen, please get the rutabagas, dear. No, not those rutabagas. The
how
other
many
ones.
apple pies did you get, Karen?
Sweetie, the rugula. It's also probably not a Jewish thing. But I think it's also an extension of like people now. I'm sure you've seen this.
We talk loud on the phone as it is.
Well, we can be heard. We could have those two tin cans with a string and hear each other. But people now just listen to things like out loud. Like they'll just be, sitting somewhere and it's like, oh, I want to hear this YouTube video. Let me just
Yeah.
put it a todo and everyone now listen to the music that I desire to listen. It's like,
Yes.
no, that is why we all have headphones. And if you can't abide by the rules of society, then you know what? You should go to an
Especially-
island somewhere and just not be part of it.
Especially if you're somewhere, if you're somewhere quiet. Especially somewhere that's quiet. Because, like, for example, if you're doing that at Costco, I'm not going to get on your case. Because in Costco, siempre hay una gritería. There's a person on the loudspeaker.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, if you do this at the fair, fine. I mean,
But-
I can still hear the music coming from the
Please
Himalaya.
Don't do this at my PCP's office. Like,
Thank you.
while I'm waiting.
Thank you. El oculista.
El oculista, no hagas esto en la oficina del
You know?
oculista. Like,
There's a time and place.
Yeah,
There's a
there
time
is.
and place.
I think the most important thing from this conversation is that we could get our tags at Publix now.
We can, yeah. It was a pilot program that is now being expanded.
Oh, and for our listeners in the Kendall, Westchester area, the Publix in 117th is reopening on November 18th.
Mira.
My mom and I will be there.
I thought it was supposed to be October 31st.
October 31st is when it closed of last year.
Oh, I thought it was okay.
My mom and I were there.
No,
so
no,
so we're going to be there at the opening.
I have no doubt.
My mom has been for the last year. She's like, ay, no puedo. No puedo. And I'm like, listen. No, the other day, because she's always complaining that she has to drive now to the one in Town and Country, which is like half a mile more, right?
But with Miami
And she's
traffic.
like, ay, no puedo. Esto queda tan lejos. And I'm like, Neri, por favor. Que tú en Cuba lavabas pañales con la batea. Por favor.
Okay, but in her defense, ¿cuántos años hace de eso?
So I was like, please.
Okay, it's been a minute since she's done that, okay? In her defense. Listen, don't mess with oh my god. So one of our listeners who's a friend, the guy who used to run Overheard Miami, he texted me and he says that he totally wants to hang out with your mother because he loves cars and Boney M.
That's awesome.
He texted me, he literally sent me like a screenshot of his phone when he was listening to Daddy Cool.
Daddy Cool. So, you know what's so funny? That the other day I was there and they were watching Antena 3, as they do.
As
the
one does,
Spanish
yeah.
channel.
They needed their volcano update.
That's what it was. My parents have become volcanologists. My parents.
Are they going to be in the reboot of Dante's Peak?
Pero my father's like, pero yo no entiendo por qué en los canales americanos no ponen lo del volcán. And I'm like, because you're watching a network that is from Spain, Antena 3.
Right, like I'm sure Antena 3 doesn't talk about the hurricane
Right.
the way that NBC6 would.
or if it mentions it, it'll be like, oh, you know,
Esto
Miami
pasó
got hit
hoy.
by a hurricane.
Right,
Next.
right.
And that's it. But my parents are all about the volcano that's in, like, it's been, erupting in, I think, in Canaria. In one
Isla
of the,
Canaria.
In one of the Canary Islands. They're all about that. I'm like, no, they're gonna become volcanologists when this is over. Like, they're gonna talk about, a seismograph, activity. And,
That would be great. Si a esta altura, your mother decided to get like a PhD in volcanology.
But the other day they were watching Antena 3, and there's some show they watched that like puts like clips of like different musicians that have been in like different Spanish variety shows. And the other day they put Boney M when in like the early 80s or late 70s. It went to some show, and at momento my mom's like, "Ay, me encanta esa canción," and it was daddy cool. It was daddy cool. But that's not how I found them. Because when my mom was
you found them through your mother.
I found them through my mother,
Yeah.
but my mom's like, "No, yo quiero canción." I told you,
Yeah.
yo quiero canción de Boney M, and I'm like, "What the hell
do
is
you
Boney
spell
M?"
that? Yeah.
Like, I wasn't even like how phonetically, like, what is she talking about? Like, because if you've never heard the term Boney M,
Right. And then she says,
someone
Boney
tells me
M.
Boney M,
Yeah,
I'm
like, sure. I don't know.
and then that I found them because I'm like, okay, tell me some of their songs.
Right.
And she's like, no, había uno de Rasputin. And I was like, okay, that I could get.
There cannot be that many songs about Rasputin.
That I could get. That I could get. And through Rasputin, I found Boney M. And it was so funny because when I finally found the song, because I went through a couple of duds. And I'm
Really?
like, is it this song? And she's like, no. Is it that song? She's
Wait,
like,
there's
no.
more than one song about
No,
Rasputin?
because you
Or
know,
like
a lot-
covers and things like that. Okay, okay.
And you know, on YouTube you find a million things. She's like, no. And when I found that one, it was like, she turned around. She's like, "Esa es."
Aww. She
No,
got
what
so
you-
happy.
no, the thing about my mother that you said the other day, that would be hilarious. Would be our other friend Neri Sanz.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Riding in cars with Neri.
Who's a comedian. And well, he's on the Geek Bro Network with our podcast. You know, Neri the comedian with Neri, my mom.
I'd watch it.
Riding with Neri.
I'd watch the fuck out of that show. Like, I mean, you want to talk about something that would get syndicated in other countries?
Yeah. My mom will be like, tú eres nicaragüense.
¿Y por qué tenemos el mismo nombre?
No, porque yo sé que hay mucho. That's my mom tells me. No, porque en Nicaragua los hombres se llaman Neri. And I'm like, right, yeah, I've met Neris. And she's like, no, porque yo tuve una compañera de trabajo nicaragüense. Like, that's what she'll tell you.
The
like,
one.
I'm like, okay. No, porque Herminia que trabajaba conmigo era nicaragüense. And I'm like,
I'm just picturing what they would talk about, but I feel like every episode would end with fritanga.
yeah, I don't. Wouldn't it be great if they had, like, we need to make this happen. We need to call Neri.
It would be great if they totally just like hit it off.
Yes, they had chemistry.
Like they have absolute chemistry, and it's like, wow.
Yeah. I've
No.
always told you.
Nope. I already have the pitch. And we're going to do this next year. We're going to figure this out. We're timing, but we're going to do this next year. Next year, we are going to film Neri Squared at the car show.
My mom and Neri looking at cars.
Yes. This is the pitch.
My mom will get into like the big SUV.
This is the pitch.
Well, you know what's so funny about my mom and the car show? This is revisiting the conversation we had last week, you know, that our listeners seem to like about my mom and the car show. Is that generally my mom is the type that she's like, ay, no, me tire foto. No, que look horrible.
Oh, no. But she was all about it.
But the moment I'm like, Mama, get on the Escalade. She's like, I'm okay.
No. Your mother was this close to being Tawny Katane on a hood of a car.
Mamá, ponte en el Navigator. Ay, el Navigator es tremendo carro. Eso sí que es un carro.
You should post the pictures of your mother and the car show.
Of my mom in the car show?
Yes. But like all of them, like the slideshow.
And then the thing is that she has like valid opinions. Because,
no, she's educated
She'll be
about
like,
it.
like when we went to Toyota, she's like, mira, yo sé que el Corolla no es un carro bonito, pero es un carro que resuelve. Y es un carro muy bueno.
No. She's informed. Like, yeah, she's not like, she's not like walking in there and being like, ay, qué carro más lindo. Like, and leave it at that. No. She has informed opinions.
Yeah, no, she does. She does.
Okay?
It's like you would have never, ever, if you know my mother, that'd be the like.
But how long have I known your mother and I didn't know?
That's the last thing you would have ever thought, that my mom knows about cars.
And to that detail. It's wonderful.
My mom even says that one of her favorite cars of all time was the Honda Prelude.
Really?
Yes.
of all time.
Like, she'll tell you that it was like, ay, porque te acuerdas de ese
Right.
carro de la Honda, Prelude, like the
Right.
late 90s version. Qué línea más bonita tenía ese carro. I actually have a picture of her at
In a
the car
Prelude?
show, in a Prelude from like the early 90s.
Okay, I'm telling you, we need to post all of this. All of them. I need this to be some type of like Snapchat video thing with dissolve filters.
See, when I told them to go to the car show, because it was one of those things I had like nobody to go to the car show with, and I'm like, I still don't want to go alone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the moment I call them, hey, do you want to go to the car show? She's like, I see, dale, vamos. Mira that my parents have tried, like, even now, like, they're vaccinated and all that, they still don't want to avoid,
Claro.
they want to avoid, like, big crowds. But for this, they were like, oh, hell no, we're going to the
Your
car
mother
show.
was not missing out and sitting in big SUVs.
Que pizarra más linda tiene ese carro.
Miami car show people, I'm sure one of you is listening. We will make this partnership happen next year. Nary and Nary go to the car show.
Nary go to the car show. With the proper editing and music, it could be done. Like,
Oh, Boney M will be featured in some way, shape, or form. I don't care. Actually, you know what? I know exactly how it'll be featured. Because it'll be your mother and Nary walking into the car show in slow motion, putting on glasses, and it'll be like, Daddy cool. Done.
I think that if we start now, we could convince her.
We have a year.
We have a year to convince
We have a year. The beauty is, I think the way to convince your mother is to tell her, but not really tell her what's happening. Right? Because if you try to tell her like too much, le va a dar pena. She's not going to want to do it. But if you kind of just tell her like, no, que vamos a ir con el amigo de nosotros, Neri. Let him be in on it and just kind of have it happen. That will be comedy gold. Mark my words.
I've always told you that if everybody always says, oh, and my family had a reality TV show, right? I've always said, if my family has a reality TV show, initially the producers would want to probably make me or my cousin like the head ones, like Roger.
Yeah,
but the
no.
breakout star will be my mother.
No, nature finds a way.
Yeah, my mother would be the breakout star.
Nature finds a way.
Well, at least she won't be the Ruthie of the group.
Oh.
From Real World Hawaii.
It took me a second to I'm like, wait, Ruthie. I'm like, oh, no, don't become an alcoholic, Nary.
No. Not at this.
Not at this stage. Plus, you guys don't have a volcano pool.
No. But they're all about the volcanoes now.
Wow, that was a tie I wasn't even thinking about.
I feel a little bit like what's his name? Margara.
From Jackass?
Yeah.
Yeah, his parents are like the
terrorized his parents. Bueno.
But his parents like stole the show.
Well, let's talk about that of the parents. I've chilled out because now that my parents are super old, right? My parents are in their 70s, right? So I've chilled out a little bit. You know, my mom did have a heart attack. Mild, thank God.
Your father also has heart issues.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
So mild, thank God. So I've chilled out a bit. But you do know that for years,
Oh, yes.
I terrorized my parents, especially my mother, because my mother is very easy to
For a good
terrorize.
3 years, listeners, we may have told this story before. His mother thought one of our friends was an ex-heroin addict.
Yep, for a while.
Because he set up the joke and then forgot to tell her.
Yeah, because one of our friends, when we were in high school, he was sort of he was overweight, and he randomly would always wear long sleeve shirts. And
we never noticed, really. We never thought about it.
I didn't really notice, but
Yeah.
my mom one day's like, "Hey, why does he always wear long sleeve shirts?" And I'm like, "Listen, I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want to tell you, but the thing is that he just want people to see the marks." And she's like, "Marks of what?" I'm like, "Of the needles." And she's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because he was addicted to heroin." She's like, "Ay, la heroína, que es lo peor." And I'm like, and I'm like, "But mom, it's okay. He's sober." "Oh, how long has he been sober?" "It's been a full 3 months." And then the joke was supposed to end there, but then
You got distracted?
I got distracted and I forgot to tell her it was a lie. And then, I don't know, sometime later, she's like, "Oh, how's he doing with his recovery?" And I'm like, "Oh, that was a lie."
So yeah, don't do that to your parents now.
But I used to pull tricks on my mom. Like, my mom before she retired, every day, every night, she would leave her work clothes. You probably saw this when you would come to my house. Her work clothes on the sofa in the living room.
Yeah, well, you know what my favorite ritual was.
What?
My favorite Neri ritual was Friday nights.
What was on Friday nights?
When she would sit in the kitchen con la secadora de pelo
Oh, and blow dry her
and
hair.
blow dry her hair.
Well, no, that still happens.
Listeners, but this was at like 11 o'clock at night.
I love how we're having a whole segment on my mother.
On your mother?
So my mom, before she retired, she would always leave out the clothes that she was going to wear in the living room.
Yes, I remember.
Right.
I remember.
Do you know why she used to leave it out in the living room?
No.
Because she wanted it out there. Because my dad would be sleeping, and she wanted the clothes out there. Because in the living room, she would do her 200 sit-ups.
That's right. Your mother was like Jack LaLanne.
Yes.
She was.
So what I would do was, when my mom would leave out her clothes, right?
Right.
Like whatever pants and blouse,
Her
and
outfit,
shoes,
her ensemble.
I would then, when she wasn't watching in the middle of the night, go into her closet and change the clothes.
You would change her outfits?
Yes. So, she put on she took out a certain pair of black pants. I would go and replace them with other pants.
Like white
so then I would
pants.
hear her in the morning being like, ay, pero qué estúpida soy yo. ¿Por qué esto no son los pantalones? Que esto no, pero ¿por qué?
Esto no coordina.
Pero qué? And then the thing was that I did that for years. She never noticed.
She never caught on.
No. Well, I eventually told her, but
after you've done 200 sit-ups, you're very tired.
and then it was just so much. The time, every single year on April Fool's Day, I would destroy my parents. The time that I called my mom. And, I had to have help. And I had, a coworker of mine call my mom. And she's like, hi, is this Neri Borges? And it's like, yeah. Because the fight between my mom and my dad has always been, my dad's always wanted a lazy boy reclinable.
Oh, okay.
And my mom's like, no.
Oh, really?
They're ugly. They're going to get you, fat. No. She's been that person. Pa que te empotre ahí, no como una papa. No, you're not going to do that. So that was always something that they were whatever.
Right.
So one year for April Fool's Day, I had a coworker of mine call my mom. Sí, ahora es Neri. Ahora, estoy llamando del departamento de muebles de Sears. Queremos confirmar el delivery de reclinable ordenado por Roberto Borges a su dirección. And she's like, pero qué reclinable. So then she calls my father. I'm like, I didn't order a reclinable. So then to add fuel to fire, 45 minutes later, I used to go have lunch at my parents'
you're
house.
right there, yeah.
I call my mom, Mom, Sears is coming to that. Sears is right now outside. And then it was a thing. I would constantly pull pranks on them. Constantly. And the time that my dad, this was a pretty good one. So listeners, listen to this. This is a really good prank to play because it's hilarious and, nobody's going to get hurt.
There's no real hurt, right?
So my dad loves to take hot showers. I don't know how he could take... It's practically boiling water.
He should have no upper layer of skin.
Yes. My parents have always had a Titan. Instead of the water heater, the big water heater, the Titan is the little box that heats your water.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. You've never, Okay, so the conventional is the big water heater, right?
Right, that's
My
what
parents have always, for years, at least since I was in college, they've had a Titan. So a Titan is a little box, and the advantage of it is you don't need the big space of the water heater. That it, through some technology, it heats the water, right away, but the water is, boiling hot. You have to be very careful with, the settings. My dad does it yes. It's I don't know how his skin doesn't come off.
Maybe that's why he's so obsessed with volcanoes.
So what I did one time, que cogí un cubito de pollo. And I put it, and I took off the shower head.
No.
And I put it inside the shower head, and then I put it back on.
Y se bañó con
sopa boy. And then he came out and he's like, pero qué pasa con esta ducha? La peste que esto tiene. Because, he would have never thought that there was un cubito de pollo in the shower.
Who the hell would have thought?
And he's like, pero qué peste tiene el agua? And I was like, oh my God, what is this?
That's wonderful.
What? Dad.
What happened?
What happened? I did that
great.
3 times.
You did? Okay, wait. You did it multiple times?
Yeah. And then there was another time that on there was a time that my uncle was going bald, and he bought the horse shampoo, and my brother and I put Nair in it.
That's just horrible.
Yeah.
That's bad.
My brother and I were lethal.
Like a dynamic duo.
Yeah. My brother and I were like pretty bad. There was another time that my brother like got all this dog shit and put it on my cousin's car. It was bad. And then that's why like I had to start whenever I was at my parents' house and I wanted to nap, I had to lock the door because if I was napping and my brother came,
That's it. It was open
my
season.
brother one time filled my entire face and neck with mayonnaise while I was taking a nap. Good thing he didn't do ketchup.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah,
I don't know if you just survived.
my parents, it was bad. Like one time, and this took a lot of effort. One time, I changed everything in their closet. I put my mom's stuff in my dad's closet,
You
and
rearranged the
vice
closet.
versa. Everything, and in their drawers, the same thing. My mom had the left, my dad had the right. And you know what? They didn't put it back.
This is our life now. This is just how we're going to live.
Actually, I still think it's that way. Like 20 years later, like they didn't put it back because they're like, we're not gonna put it back.
It's too much trouble. Forget it.
Yeah, no, all that type of stuff. Like
That
it
is
was
great.
And the thing with them is that both of them are so gullible in different ways
Okay.
that it's great.
It just works
But
out.
yeah, listeners, un cubito de pollo. You take off the shower head, you put it in the shower, i.e. where you pat it into that area there, right where the hole is in the shower head, and then you screw it back on. Y lo que sale es una sopa de pollo. You'll thank me later.
I think that's great. I got nothing after that. I think it's time for last sodas because after the cubito de pollo in the shower, I don't
think
know if
I'm
I
gonna
can
give my
top
last
it.
soda to my mother. For 40 years of
Of
driving
putting
her
up with you.
Oh my God. One of the best ones of my mom, it was great, was my mom, before she retired, she worked at a bank. So my mom, it was very common that when she would go do groceries, traía una panetela o algo to take to work the next day. So obviously, she brought una panetela to take to work. We wouldn't eat it, right? Because it was for her to
It was for the next day.
Right. But one day she brought una panetela or whatever, or cake, and it was for us. And my brother gets to the house and he's going to open the panetela. And I'm like, no la coma. And he's like, why? And I'm like, no, porque eso es para mi mamá llevar el trabajo. And he's like, oh, okay. And my mom's like, no, yo traje esa panetela para ustedes. And I'm like, Mom, what are you talking about? You brought the panetela to take to work. She's like, no, yo la traje para llevarla para ti y tu hermano.
You
And I'm
gaslit
like,
your
And I'm
mother.
like, mamá, tú trajiste esta panetela ahorita cuando viniste del poli or whatever. Y tú dijiste que no comieran la panetela porque el lunes la vas a llevar al trabajo. Tú me acabaste de decir eso porque cuando tú llegaste, yo quería un pedazo de panetela y me dijiste que no. And she's like, ay, Dios mío, qué pena. No, yo que la panetela. Like,
You gaslit your mother.
Totally. Like, she totally
You
bought it.
totally gaslit
Totally
your
bought
mother.
it. Totally bought it. Yeah.
That is great.
And it's just great. Like, and then things my mom says. One of her greatest hits is,
Is this about the dinosaur?
no. When my mom, when I bought a pair of shoes, and one of our friends saw this in person, and she just had to like swallow the laughter. When I bought a pair of shoes, and I take out one shoe from the bag, and I go, "Oh, Mom, look at the pair of shoes, the shoe I bought, the shoes I bought. Look how nice." She gets a shoe, and she's like, "Ay, qué lindo, pero tú te compraste el otro." Like, yes, I bought both shoes.
I promise.
Like, she's great. She's great.
So is that why she's getting your last soda?
She's getting my last soda. That and my last baklava. Sorry. When I went to Greece, I'm sorry, listeners. I'm going on a roll here with my parents and my mom. They should be on the show.
It'd be great.
Yeah. When my parents and I went to Greece some years back, I had my mom taste baklava.
She had never had it
She
before.
had never had it.
Okay.
And it was one of those things that, like, it's like blooming music. You know what I mean? By blooming music came out. Like, a ray of sunshine came out.
Her world changed.
Esto es lo más rico que yo me he comido en mi vida. and she had like a second piece.
Okay.
And you know how my mom is. How my mom eats bird food.
Yeah,
Like,
your mom is very like, I'm gonna have one piece, pa gusto ya.
My mom in one sitting ate 4 pieces of baklava.
Oh my god, wow. Good for her.
Like, wow. So I always say, wow, this is better than the day my mom discovered baklava. And now she's such a snob every time I bring her baklava. Because anytime
Right.
there's baklava, she's like, este está rico, pero nunca como el de Grecia.
Bueno, claro, en Grecia. It's gonna be way better.
La pobre, she sustained so much.
All because of you. Oh, Lord.
So my mom gets my last soda.
Well,
I've
that's-
never given it to a family member.
No?
No? I mean, who?
No. I'm trying to think back. Like, I don't know. Well, my last soda is not going to a family member. It's actually just, I'll keep it short and sweet. Now that I'm working from home, I'm home all day. So I've started watching Days of Our Lives again. So I'm giving it to Days of Our Lives for 2 reasons. Number one, because Jackie is on it now.
Mary.
I mean-
and I started watching 227 again.
And whose life isn't a little better with some Jackie in it?
You know what's so funny? There's like a million shows I want to watch. Like I want to watch Ted Lasso. I want to watch all these shows.
Right.
But somehow in the last week and a half, I've been watching 227 nonstop.
Which is not a bad thing.
No.
But also they brought back Marlena being possessed by the devil. But now the devil's even more powerful. And like last week, she literally raised 3 people from the dead. So now there's zombies running through Salem.
Wait.
So Jackie and a possessed Deidre Hall.
So wait. Is Days of Our Lives then a little sci-fi?
I'm gonna say yes because Days of Our Lives actually. Oh God, listeners. Okay, Days of Our Lives years ago had another plot line where they turned Marlena into a serial killer.
Is Marlena Deidre?
Deidre Hall. They turned her into a serial killer, and she killed like half of Salem. But then it turned out that she didn't really kill them. Her and all the people that she had killed had actually been kidnapped, and they were in some type of like virtual reality program thing on an island by Stefano Demera, where they were made to live out these, like a shared virtual reality where Marlena thought she killed everybody, but they weren't really dead. They were all kidnapped. So you know what? Yeah, Days is a little sci-fi de vez en cuando.
Wow.
Yeah.
I asked that because I've never really watched Days of Our Lives, but isn't Days of Our Lives like the most prestigious one? Like
I think the most prestigious is actually
General Hospital,
Bold and the Beautiful or Young and the Restless.
Young and the Restless.
Yeah.
Is that still on?
Yeah, those 2 are still on. Yeah, daytime right now is Young and the Restless, Bold and Beautiful, Days of Our Lives, and General Hospital. That's pretty much it for daytime soaps. But yeah, Days of Our Lives, Jack Hay, and a possessed Deidre Hall.
And it's still the sands of time.
Well,
These are the days of
these
our
are
lives.
the days of our lives, yeah.
Wow. My mom and Days of Our Lives get our last sodas.
As it should be.
As it should be. So yeah, we got to work on that pilot for Cars with Nary.
Yes, Nary and Nary. Ooh, it'd be like Simon and Simon.
Are they going to solve mysteries?
God, can they?
It'd be great if my mom has a nose for like detective work. If at this age she found her calling.
Oh my God, this would be so great. It would be even better than that show with Linda Carter and Lonnie Anderson.
Oh, what was that?
Partners in Crime, I think was the name of it,
Oh.
where they were each married to the same guy, and then the guy died and left them both his detective agency, and they decided to keep the detective agency
Oh, yeah.
and solve
Mira that in
crimes.
the 80s, there were shows about detective agencies.
There was a lot of detectives.
Mira, there was Remington Steele,
Okay,
Heart to Heart,
that's true.
Simon and Simon.
Simon and Simon. Scarecrow, and Mrs. King.
Uh-huh. We're missing another one.
Columbo.
Uh-huh.
Mrs. Columbo.
Okay. There's more.
I know we're missing some. Was Simon and Simon the 80s? No.
Yes.
Fall Guy.
The Fall Guy, yes.
MacGyver.
Cagney and Lacey were not a detective agency, but they were like,
But they were solving crimes.
yes.
We're already at 10.
Yes, this was such a like
This
hot
was a
commodity.
thing. And they probably all had to deal with quicksand.
Yes. Do you know of any active detective agencies around? Like, I know of like personal detectives.
Right. But not like
welcome to Kendall Detective Agency.
right, like Simon and Simon Detective Agency.
Right, like
right.
has
No.
an office, at
Right.
a
Like
office
Nary and
park.
Nary.
Yes,
Right.
like in an office park where you go in a lobby and there's people working at the detective agency. Like,
There will be soon. Nary and nary.
Who knew that detectives were such a hot commodity? So I wonder if in the 80s when you would check the careers that were hot, like
Oh yeah, like it would be like doctors, guidance counselors, detective agencies.
Yeah. Like who knew? Welcome to Pero Let Me Tell You after the soda.
After the soda. Oh. I want to do a deep dive and find all the 80s detective shows.
Yes.
And those are probably only the ones I remember because they went more than one season.
Magnum was a detective.
That's true.
Magnum PI,
That's
but he
true.
didn't have a detective agency, so that could kind of be.
But didn't he? I mean, he did for all intents and
yeah.
purposes. I mean, it was him and his guy. I forgot his sidekick's name. But yeah. I mean, technically, for all intents and purposes,
he did. So do people not? Well, the thing is, I don't think people need to solve crime that much anymore because we have the internet.
That's true.
So you can just catch people on the internet.
You just have to put a ring.
A ring.
A ring. And that's it. You're fine.
But then, they'd always walk in with the manila envelope.
always a manila
with
envelope.
black and white pictures. Which never in color.
But see, that's also why we don't have detective agencies, because nowadays you can't just leave your phone.
Yeah.
And sending an email is not as dramatic.
No, it's not.
No.
But it was always a manila envelope with black and white pictures. Not color.
Not color.
Black and white.
Black and white. Black and white.
Mind you, it was the 80s.
And it costs the same.
Yeah.
It's not like black and white was
Actually,
cheaper.
no, I would say
black and white I think is more expensive.
It's more expensive because you can't
Yeah.
develop black and white in an hour. You couldn't develop black and white pictures on an 8x10 for an hour at Eckerd's. Like, that didn't exist. That had to be that had to be printed. That had to be sent out. Wow, nobody has thought about 1 hour photo in a while.
Not even the movie.
Do you remember when you used to drop your film off? Again, welcome to Pero Let Me Tell You after the
last
soda. Remember when you would drop off your 1 hour photo, your
And
film,
you would find things to do.
and it'd be like, oh my god, this is like the longest hour of my life.
You would be like, okay,
it'd
well,
be
I
like-
guess I'll go do my
And
groceries.
it'd be like, like especially pictures after like a birthday or like a vacation
event. Yeah,
or like
yeah.
Disney World.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my god, like
I can't wait
still
to see
have
them.
30 minutes to go for my 1 hour photo.
And then you would get them, and so many of them would not be good.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't see what you were taking pictures of.
No, and I remember sometimes when you would get them double.
Yeah. You'll be like,
My mom would be like, saca las doble. And I'm like, but why do I want two of the same picture?
there was a time there where everybody got doubles.
Yes.
I don't know
I
why.
think it was 2 for 1.
I must have been perpetually 2 for 1. I remember
And then
doubles
it's all
all the time.
perspective, right? Because like I remember, like for example, those years that we used to go to Disney all the time,
Yeah.
like every weekend it seemed. I would always take my camera,
Yes.
and I would take my big camera,
Yeah.
right? And I would take un rollito de 36. Like 36.
Yes,
That
you
was
splurged.
good.
You
Yeah,
splurged,
You
yeah.
splurged 36.
Yeah.
No 24. No,
No, don't say why
36.
bother.
And now with my phone camera, like I take 36 pictures in like
20 minutes.
in like the first 20 minutes. I'm there. Like a trip to wherever will be probably like 600-700 pictures. Like,
Y cuidado.
what do we do with 36?
We were way more judicious with our film.
Los rollitos.
Why did we always get dobles?
I don't know.
There was like a good 5 years where
Everything was double.
everything was doubles. Why?
Yeah, my mom was like, coge la doble. And I'm like, but why?
Why?
Like, thinking back on it, it's like, but why? Like,
And on top of that, my mother, to this day, I mean, she still has them, would put them in photo albums.
Well,
so it's not even like they were
here's the thing.
floating
Here's the thing.
around.
I know what we used to do with some of them.
Cuba.
Cuba. See?
But we-
see,
but
see how
what-
that was just like rolls off the tongue? Yeah. Especially if it was like las fotos del Día de las Madres, de
Right,
la
right,
crisma,
right.
del cumpleaños del niño. You would get them double to send them to Cuba.
Right. My grandparents would do that to send to Cuba. And I guess maybe that's probably why sometimes we would too. But then but there was a time where we were just getting doubles and they weren't
Yeah.
going anywhere.
Yeah.
Because they're still at the house.
The kids will never understand
They
the
won't.
struggle
They
of
won't.
35 millimeter. Well, and when we were really small kids, it wasn't 35 millimeter, it was 110. That it was like
I don't remember
it was
that.
the skinny cameras.
No, I remember the camera, but I don't remember it personally, like because I never had to load that camera. So,
no! I didn't load it either.
Yeah.
That was like when we were really small.
Yeah.
But I remember that we still.
I remember
have
the
pictures,
camera. I remember the camera.
And the negatives were like really thin. That was 110.
Yes, you're right.
That was 110, and then 35 millimeter was like
The regular.
Yeah, I remember when we got a 35 millimeter camera. It was a Canon. It was like a big deal. That was like the good camera. That was like the camera that we, íbamos a los 15 de, Marisol, just to take pictures. I told you that my aunt and my uncle were the first people that I knew that got a video camera in 1985.
Oh wow.
Yes. So those people got invited to like every other 15s. Ay.
Tú puedes estar en la cámara.
Pueden tomar fotos, pueden tomar video de la niña.
Fueron a todos los 15 en Miami.
Yep. 1 hour photo, man. Going to Eckerd Drugs.
Those were the days.
And you know what I used to do?
God, knowing you.
You know what I used to do? In some places, the photo, once they were developed, they would put them outside.
Oh,
in
yeah.
alphabetical order. I would go through people's pictures.
Daddying. Did you
take
some of their dobles?
No, I wouldn't take them. I'd be like, oh, look, they went to Naples.
then they would get back and they'd be like, pero yo tiene doble. And they were not there because of you.
And it was always a couple. I remember when my brother, taking it back to my brother, I remember when my brother's first job was at Extra. The Extra
Wow.
supermarket. And I remember that my parents were always like, ay, que Dayan trabaje en Eckerd, porque ese es tremendo trabajo.
That was a step up.
That was like the job you wanted to work at Eckerd Drugs. Mind you, it's like CVS and Walgreens.
But in its time.
In its time.
It
was like tremendo trabajo. Especially if you work in the 1 hour photo because you used to wear the white.
Well, yeah, you had a uniform.
Yes.
A very nice, pristine. Yes. It was almost like you were a doctor.
Para revelar la foto.
And now, if you work there, it's like, whatever, who shows up?
Do they even have 1 hour photos?
So they do, only because, if you have to go do like a pasaporte picture.
Actually, what am I talking about? I
like that.
develop pictures in 1 hour all the time.
Yeah,
But I do them through
Oh, you do it online and then you
online.
go pick it up.
Yeah,
you go
I
pick
do
it
it all
up.
the time. Actually, blow up mental fart.
Yeah.
But yeah, no more rollitos.
No more rollitos.
Yeah. So anyway, we hope that you all enjoyed that trip, down memory lane.
That was a hell of a trip.
Yes.
It was about an hour trip.
This is our new segment
After the last soda.
So everybody, enjoy your double pictures. And we hope you listened, laughed, and learned. Remember to grab your pastelito, your croquetica, and your cafecito. And thank you for joining us, everybody.
Yes.
Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. And don't forget, Wednesday, November 10th, Beat Culture for trivia.
Yep.
Hope to see you kids there.
Bye.
Bye. Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lomlaplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.